Evening, everybody. Okay, guys, the subject tonight is to talk about speed limits. And it's actually, I'm going to start by just giving you some statistics. People, scary statistics. So this is actually quite scary. Let me just share my screen. I want you to just look at this for a minute. This is a survey that was done a little while ago. It's about 4 or 5 years old, but it's still scary. I'm going to start at the bottom. 13 crashes caused every day by drivers breaking the speed limit. 13 accidents happen every day in the UK, which are related to drivers overspeeding. 43% of drivers break the speed limit doing 81 miles per hour. Now, I want you guys to understand there are actually two speeds that we have to consider when we're driving, and everybody should be aware of this. The one speed we have to consider is the true speed of the vehicle in relation to the surface of the road, and the other one is the speed as per the speedometer. Now, I'd like, if anybody would like to just tell me why those two speeds are relevant when it comes to a speed limit. Samuel, you can talk. Samuel, talk to us.
All right. I think it has to do with weather conditions as well, because the fact that you see a particular speed limit showing on the road and a different one showing on your speedometer does not mean you have to all the time go for that speed limit. I mean, a practical example is the type of weather we have right now. If you look at it and you see 70 miles per hour and you're not seeing clearly, I think it is wise to slow down.
Yeah, your answer to your question is correct, but the answer to the question I posed was incorrect. So you're quite right. If you see a speed limit, doesn't necessarily mean you must do that speed limit, because very often there is a difference in what is safe on the road or under the circumstances. Correct. You could have a lot of snow, you want to slow down. You might have a lot of mist, you want to slow down. You might have a lot of pedestrians and cyclists. You want to keep your speed down. You want to be careful. Okay, that's correct. Correct from that point of view. But I am alluding to the statistics of the actual speed you are doing. So in other words, your car's speedometer is always marked 5 to 10% higher than what the actual true road speed is. And you will be fined in terms of the road speed, not in terms of your speedometer speed. And the reason your speedometer in your car registers a higher speed than the actual speed you're doing, the true speed you are doing, is for safety reasons. So you've got to have all speedometers have a built-in accuracy, and in the digital world we live in, that's unnecessary. But we've brought that along because previously speedometers were actually measured the speed due to magnetic force. Nowadays, speedometers actually read the speed due to revolutions of your wheel on the tar, which is much more accurate. But they still build in a higher speed in the reading of the speed itself. Okay, so that's why the car has actually got. If you just want to drive according to the speedometer, you'll be quite safe. I mean, if you're most cars are 5 to 10%, have a 5 to 10% accuracy, but there is a legal amount that may not be exceeded in speedometer accuracy. Okay, so I'm going to give it to you what the legal amount, the maximum legal specified speedometer error is. The UK specify a maximum allowable tolerance for speedometer readings in the UK. This tolerance is 10% plus 6.25 miles per hour. So when your speedometer is reading 70 miles per hour, you are doing 10% less than the 70 miles per hour. So most cars will be doing around 60 miles per hour when the car is reading 70 miles per hour. But be careful with that. because you need to know what the true road speed is in relation to your speedometer. I used to drive a Lexus many years ago. The Lexus error was about 6%. So in other words, when I was doing 70 miles per hour, I would be doing in true speed about 64, 65 miles per hour. But now I'm driving a Toyota, which is much more digital, a hybrid, Toyota hybrid, and the difference between its true speed and its road speed is only, and it's consistently 3 miles per hour. So it's not a percentage anymore. It's digitally 3 miles per hour. So when I am doing 70 miles per hour on the speedometer, according to the speedometer, my true road speed is 67. That means that I can push it up to 73 miles per hour on the speedometer, and my road speed will be 70 miles per hour. And the speed calculation is done on the actual road speed, not on your speedometer speed. So the radar will be working with true speed. And now my next question is, and this will be really interesting, who knows, how can you find out what your speedometer error is? It's actually in the hands of all of you right now. I can bet you all of you are sitting with the answer in your hands. The answer is this: when your car's speedometer is reading 73 miles per hour, you can set your sat nav to give you the true speed. And that will give you the actual speed your vehicle is traveling at in terms of the surface of the road. And you will find that the speedometer will read 73 miles per hour or 74, or some higher number than 70, 5 to 10% higher number than 70, when your sat navigation is reading 70 miles per hour. And that is standard for all cars. All cars are normally 5 to 10%, my experience is 5 to 10% inaccurate positively. So you are thinking you might be doing 70 miles per hour when you're actually doing, according to your satellite navigation, according to Waze, according to Google Maps, you are actually doing 67 miles per hour. I don't know if any of you have ever noticed that. Now, you will be fined according to your true speed, not your speedometer speed. So now just taking that one place further, and I'm not going to dwell on this much longer. You guys can ask me questions about this later. In the UK, your tolerance error, the error tolerance your speedometer in your car is allowed is 10% plus 6.25 miles per hour. So the true speed at 70 miles per hour, true speed, in other words, the speed your car is doing in terms of the sat nav when it's doing 70 miles per hour, can read as much as 80.25 miles per hour on your speedometer. That's why when you're traveling on the sat nav speed in the center lane, mostly the center lane is running at 60 miles per hour, true speed. But speedometer speed in most cars is running at 70 miles per hour. That's the reason there are these differences. But you will be fined according to your true speed, not according to your speedometer speed. So if you want to I'll just wrap this up with this last comment, okay? And then please, if anybody wants further information on that, please ask us. Check it in the FAQs. Send us an email, contact your client manager or a client manager, or just send me an email. It's really simple, guys. The thing is, your car's speedometer has a higher reading than the actual true speed of the car. And the reason for that is for safety's sake, and also that will help if you're driving at 70 miles per hour on your speedometer and you creep over to 75 or 74 miles per hour, you more than likely will still be below the speed limit if you were going through a camera because of that error. That's why the error is there, okay? But if you're trying to calculate how quickly you're going to get to a destination using your speedometer speed, you are going to lose between 3 miles, 3 miles per hour. You're going to lose 3 miles in an hour when you're traveling at 60, 70 miles per hour, up to as much as 10 miles because of the inaccuracy of the speedometer. But the speedometer is purposely set to be higher. Now, if you take this to its ultimate conclusion, when your car, if you want to be, there is also a thing called buffer for fines, and I can explain that to you, but basically it comes down to 10% plus 2 miles per hour in England, which means that now your true speed, if you're traveling at 80 miles per hour on your speedometer, your true speed on the road is 70 miles per hour, then you are fined on true speed, which means you are doing 70 miles per hour on the road. Okay. Now, if you add to that a buffer, which the speed cop or police will use, they add 10% plus 62.5 miles per hour on your true speed. So that means you have to be doing something like 87 or 89 miles per hour before you'll actually get fined. But that extra speed in the buffer is dependent on how they see your general driving. And it will depend on police to police. They can fine you even if you go 1 mile per hour over the true speed, not your speedometer speed. Okay, so normally if you keep rigidly, I would say at 75 miles per hour, you should be still within the true speed of 70 miles per hour on the road. And if you add the buffer, you'll be quite safe at that. But I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend keep to your speedometer speeds, and that's the best way to do it. But that was just a little bit of information for all of you to understand, okay? All right, now please, guys, if that confuses you, it's not important. Stick to the speed on your speedometers, all right? But if anybody's got any questions on that, please ask me, all right? The Waze app, if you drive according to the speed that's displayed on your Waze app, you are driving at true road speed. And if everybody else is going faster than that, it means they're going over the true road speed. That's the way it is. And if you look at that, if you're driving at, say, 60 miles per hour on your Waze, if your Waze is telling you're doing 60 miles per hour, your speedometer will probably tell you you're doing 65 or 67 or 63 or something like that. And that will be that tolerance between true road speed and the speedometer speed. All right, now what I want to do is just talk about this quickly, carry on with this. We were talking about overspeed and talking about speed. Just quickly look at this. This is quite scary, these stats. I don't know if you can see them clearly on your thing. Okay, speed cameras, 28% of drivers would rather pick up points than go to a speed correctness course. Okay, well, I would rather go and get the speed correctness course than have points on my license, because you never know what might happen. 43% of drivers break the speed limit and are traveling at 81 miles per hour. But remember, that's 81 miles per hour true road speed. Now, I'm not sure how accurate that is. I think that's more to do with motorcycles than anything else. 32% of drivers break the speed limit at 47 miles per hour. I can understand that. 36% of drivers at 30 miles per hour. That's true. But remember, these are reporting true road speeds. And you'll note that these true road speeds are 10% plus a margin. That's why. That's why they recorded these at 81 miles per hour. That's 70 miles per hour true road speed, plus 10% is 7, plus 2. So you're going 81 miles per hour or higher, which means that's why it's recorded like that. But you could have a lot more drivers driving at 75%. It won't be recorded because it won't be picked up, okay? And then if you look at all of these are all within that margin of error, which the buffer section on true road speed. Okay, 1.3 million drivers received points or were disqualified in the last 12 months. That's a high percentage, guys. 14% of drivers think that slippery road sign means paint on the road. I don't know about that. But this is the scary one. Here is the scary one. And you know what's the worst thing? I actually experienced that the other day. 34% of drivers don't know what that sign means. The one at the top, the white sign with a black stripe through it. Come on, who wants to tell me what that sign means? Michael.
Yeah, look, that's the thing before the national speed limit.
Correct.
Yeah, I actually put a question in the chat there for you, actually.
Did you?
So,
Okay,
and
now
talked
go for
about the
it, Michael.
question.
Go for your
Yeah,
question.
so yeah, sometimes when I go for driving lessons and I'm going through to use a simplistic example, I'm going through a 20-mile roads miles per hour road for the for the speed limit. And sometimes I eat around 19, right? Just to sort of maintain that maximum speed. So I just wondering that is that like any technique or any um how you can advise driver to maintain that constant speed so you don't fluctuate by going over that speed limit, if you get what I mean. So if you're driving like 19 miles per hour on a 20 miles per hour road, obviously you've got speed camera and you're trying to maintain that speed because sometimes it's very difficult for me to maintain that. I'm always like drifting over 20 and it drifts. I struggle
Okay.
to maintain that consistent speed. So
Okay.
I drift over 20. Maybe there's something, a technique of how you sort of position your foot on the pedal or accelerator or something
Yeah.
of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you can just advise us how to maintain.
I think the first thing that I would say there to you, Michael, the first thing you have to do is keep your heel flat on the ground. So you're working off your heel. So you're not trying to put
Right,
your leg in the air. Put your heel flat on the ground. That gives you a lot more control on the accelerator. Okay. So you put your heel
right.
close to the accelerator, and then that will stabilize your foot on the ground and help with that as well. Okay, so
So,
put your heel flat on the ground when you're using the accelerator.
right, okay, okay, I will try that. Yeah,
Okay,
all right,
that's
thanks.
one thing. Then the other thing, Michael, and honestly, I want you all to understand this. It is really difficult to maintain that speed. And the only thing I can tell you the way I do it is by listening to the beat of the engine. But the problem is now the cars are electric. So what do you listen to? It's a nightmare. Okay,
Mm,
so what I do now is I use the variable speed control on the car. So when you set it to 20 miles per hour, it will stick to 20 miles per hour. And the modern cars use radar to detect obstacles as well. So they will do a variable speed according to the vehicles in front of you and not overspeed. So the best thing you can do if you're doing a lot of driving where there's 20 mile per hour, get yourself to understand how the speed control on the car works, because the speed control is the best way to really control your speed. It really is a good way of doing it. You can't ignore what's going on in front of you, but the good thing is
yeah,
you don't have to be sitting there sweating on a speedometer all the time. Get to know how that works. Most
yeah.
cars today have those speed controls in, and all the new modern electronic cars have got radar in as well, radar and traffic recognition and all sorts of stuff like that. I mean, the new Toyota I've got, when I get on the highway, I just set it to 70 miles per hour, and then I just keep my hands on the wheel and watch it drive. That's really how it works. And you
So,
don't have to worry about the speed at all.
so how does that work? Do you input do you configure that
You
to,
drive up to the speed. First of all,
right?
you switch on the system. There's normally a switch on the steering or on the dash somewhere. You switch on the speed control system. Then you drive the car up to the speed you want, and then you click that speed in. You say, okay, I want to drive at this speed. And then it takes over and it drives. Do you understand, Michael?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I didn't know that that could be done. But yeah, that sounds brilliant.
Yeah, and if your instructor has got a modern car, you're allowed to use it in the driving test as well. You can
Oh,
quite
really?
yes, absolutely.
All right, I've never heard of that actually.
Yeah, it's a safety feature. You can use it in the driving test. And if my students are comfortable with it, I show them how it works, but they've got to decide whether they want to use it or not. And most
Right.
students, they practice with it, they'll use it because it just means you don't go over the speed limit. You don't have to keep
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, sure. It does make sense to, if you
But
have
then
it.
obviously
Yeah.
when the speed limit changes, you just have to reset it to the higher or lower speed limit. But you just
Mhm.
reset it and then you carry
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
And most of the modern cars actually have adaptive speed control, which means that first of all, it will drive at the speed limit where it's appropriate. But where it's not appropriate, it will slow down and adjust your speed accordingly. Okay, so there we are, Michael. Thank you for that. Enjoyed that
All
question.
right, okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's go next. All right, now I'd like to ask somebody just to please, guys, just chuck in the thing. What is the speed limit on this miserably skinny road? What is the speed limit here? Michael, do you want to tell us what the speed limit on that horrible skinny road is?
Well, but that's the national speed limit symbol, right?
Yes.
And that looks like a rural road as well, and it's bendy.
That's a very, very skinny road. That's like
Yeah,
one car at a time.
yeah. So
But
why would it put a national speed limit there?
it just means I'll tell you later, but what do you think it is? What is it telling you? What's the speed limit? What's the maximum
Well,
speed you are allowed to do on that road? I'm not saying safe speed. I'm saying what's the maximum you're allowed to do?
60?
Yes, you're right. What would you do on that road, do you think?
I probably crawl on it. I probably do half of that, 30. It's just
Yeah. You would adjust your
because you don't have a full view of your horizon. I mean, it's snaky and
exactly.
bendy, so you
Yeah.
have to be careful, you know.
Yeah. Although the legal speed limit is 60 miles per hour on that road, you
Yeah.
won't get fined unless you do over 60. But the problem is that if you actually try and do it on that road, you're going to endanger yourself. So you
Yeah,
adjust your speed accordingly. Correct.
Do you
Correct.
know, I'm keen on listening to your to the logic of having a national speed limit there now.
Look, I'm not. I think that safe driving comes from the individual's own mind and your own approach to it. Yes, I really think you've got to always regard as the speed limits as a guidance, and just realize that it's there for those that go beyond the speed limit. But you should be looking at speed limits as a guidance and using them as a guidance, as a maximum guidance, but also not doing your best not to exceed them for safety's sake. But you must adjust your speed according to road circumstances. That is really important. Okay. All right, guys. So yes, that sign is the sign that 34% of the public out there don't know what it is. It is definitely a national speed limit sign. Now, it is different for different situations. Okay, there we are. That is a quick and dirty on what speed limits are at the moment. So for cars in built up areas, now I just want to explain this to you. All right, there are certain features that are natural where you can decide what the speed limit is according to the natural circumstances of the road you're driving on. In other words, if you are in the country on a single carriageway road and there are no street lamps on that single, whether it is a single lane with only wide enough for one car or wide enough for two lanes in both directions, doesn't matter. You're in the country, you're driving. That road is national speed limit, but it's not dual carriageway or motorway speed limit. So that single carriageway road where there are no street lamps is 60 miles per hour. So no street lamps in the country on a single carriageway road, the speed limit naturally is 60 miles per hour. This one here, 60 miles per hour, right? Now, when you are on a dual carriageway, the speed limit for a car becomes 70 miles per hour. and on a motorway is 70. And the reason we have dual carriageway and motorway, they are basically the same sort of road structure most of the time, but they are different. Dual carriageways, major dual carriageways are demarcated as A routes, A2, A6, A406, A282, A whatever. And they're dual carriageways. In other words, there are normally 2 lanes going in one direction and 2 lanes going in another direction, and more than often they are separated by a central island. So, and then in built-up areas, now built-up area is defined by street lamps. So when you go in an area where there's lots of houses and there are no street lamps, that is not a built-up area. It might be buildings there, but it's not defined as a built-up area because there are no street lamps. There have to be street lamps for it to be defined as a built-up area. But if you go into the built-up area and there's no street lamps and they want you to do 30 miles per hour, they will put up 30 mile per hour signs on the entry to the built-up area. But then because there are no street lamps, they have to put up reminder signs every 250 or 300 meters, and you'll have little signs all over the place showing you 30 miles per hour. Because if they don't do that, it goes back to normal national speed limit if they don't keep reminding you what the speed is. All right, then obviously you have different, if you're towing a caravan, there's a bit of a difference. I don't think you guys are going to get there at this stage of the game. You're all learning to drive, but you might tow a trailer later. So that's also applicable to that. And then there's buses and trucks who have different speed limits. But let's just focus on cars for now, because this is your main area. So let me just revamp this. When you're in a built-up area, which is defined by street lamps, you don't need signs because there are street lamps. And that defines the built-up area, and that means the speed limit is normally 30 miles per hour. If, however, there are lots of buildings and no street lamps, they have to put up signs that say 30 miles per hour. Then that's a natural, so 30 miles per hour is a natural circumstantial speed limit. 60 miles per hour on a single carriageway with no street lamps. 70 miles per hour on a dual carriageway. But if you on a dual carriageway have street lamps, they have to define on a dual carriageway where you're just working with the dual carriageway and it's got street lamps, they have to define the speed limit, because by interpretation, the street lamps make it go back to 30 miles per hour. If you're on a motorway, the speed limit is 70 miles per hour, devoid of whether there are street lamps or no street lamps, because a lot of dual motorways, not dual carriageways, motorways, have street lamps on them. But that doesn't change the speed limit on the thing. So if on a dual carriageway, they want you to do 70 miles per hour where there are street lamps, they have to put up the national speed limit sign, or the 60 mile per hour, or 50 mile, or 40 or 30. Not the 30, because once they've got street lamps, it means 30 on a dual carriageway. Whereas on a motorway, street lamps don't change the speed limit on a motorway. A motorway, the speed limit is 70 miles per hour. Unless they change it, unless they put up signs that changes it on a motorway. Again, that's how the physical conditions can tell you what the actual speed limits are. And then you have to be watching for signs. And a lot of cars today, modern cars today, actually have built-in signage and things like that. Okay, so that's to do with the speed limits. So next, what I want to do now is I want to talk to you about the difference between a mandatory speed limit change and a recommended speed limit. And this is really important to understand, okay? What is mandatory according to law and what is just a recommendation? Okay, so there we have two signage types on the board. Now, the sign on the left-hand side, which says maximum speed limit 10 miles per hour, skid risk. What happens if I go banging down that road at 20 miles per hour and a cop catches me doing 20 miles per hour on that road instead of the 10 miles per hour? Have I broken the law? All right. Okay, so let me explain this to you. The sign on the left-hand side, which says maximum speed 10 miles per hour. If I bang down that road at 20 miles per hour, and it's not unsafe to do that speed, then that is not a breach of the regulations. What they are telling you is they are giving you a guidance. They are saying to you, there's a bunch of rocks there that could go into a skid. Watch your speed. But there's no, if that was on a 30 mile per hour road, say that was in a built up area, or on a even on a single carriageway in the middle of nowhere, they are trying to give you guidance. And as long as you are not completely reckless, if you go 15 or 20 miles per hour, there's no legal requirement to do the 10 miles per hour. It is just, this is what we would recommend to be ultimately completely safe. That's what the left-hand sign means. It is a recommendation. It is guidance. The right-hand sign, however, puts you into a situation where you are breaking the law, because it's no longer warning you of a hazard. The left-hand side, because it's a triangle, is warning you of a hazard. The right-hand sign is regulatory. That's like having a wedding ring. You are limited. That means you are limited. 30 miles per hour means you are limited to 30 miles per hour, and it is legally the correct speed limit. Okay, so that's the difference. Similarly, that now means as well, the maximum, this is the maximum safe speed they recommend for that bend is 30 miles per hour. But if you've got a low flung Cobra that's got magnificent suspension and big knobbly tires and all the rest of it, you could probably still go around that at a little bit higher speed and you won't get fined for it. But I would not recommend it. I would recommend that you try and keep to the speed limit that they recommend or below that. So guys, that's the difference between the two. Okay, so what we've looked at here is, so far we've looked at what the true speeds are that your car are doing. We've looked at what is the regulation speeds, what is regulatory speeds, in other words, the circle with a speed limit in it. And we've looked at what is advisory or recommended speeds. Those are the things that we've looked at. Now, this, again, although it says maximum speed, that is the maximum proposed speed that they are recommending that you drive at, okay? All right, guys, that is it. Now the 10 pounds hasn't been won yet tonight. So here we have a sign, but I'm going to tell you this sign needs to be answered very quickly before you look it up on Google, all right? Are you ready? Just finding it on my screen. Here we go. Right. Who knows? Is this? This is found on a highway. This is the sign that's found on a highway. Flashing lights on a highway, telling you that this is now 50 miles per hour. Where would you find this sign mostly? What type of road information would you find this sign on? Who wants to have a go at this one?
I can have a go.
Okay,
Motorway.
It is a
motorway.
And
Yeah.
Regulatory.
And
is it regulation?
Yeah,
Now, Michael didn't get
this
it.
is advisory. It's advisory.
Yeah, you read it.
No, because it couldn't have been regulatory. And there's the reason why, because I've experienced it several times on a motorway where it tends to happen where I remember a scenario, I think we were driving down like 3-lane motorway and one of the lanes was blocked because there was some sort of roadwork and going on at the end of the road. So they wanted to sort of manage the flow of traffic, and they sort of used the speed to control how people flow through the lanes.
Okay, but why you still haven't, you're still a little bit short there. You're still a little bit short, Michael. Michael, how do you know that this is not regulatory? There's a very specific reason it's not regulatory. I actually mentioned what's the difference between a regulatory and an advisory. The one is a warning of a
Warning of hazard.
Of a hazard, right? What is that
Yeah.
sign? What is that? How's that sign depicted mostly? With a?
I think it was something to do with ski heights or something like that.
No.
Around the bend.
No, you haven't got it, Michael.
Yes, it doesn't have the red sign around the
Yes. Who am I talking to now?
Ololade.
Olaladi, you have it. You have it, my girl. Exactly. That is exactly the thing you're dealing with there. What's happened there is that this is a advisory speed sign on the motorway, and mostly you will stick to that. But it's not regulatory. It's not a regulation because there's no red ring around. Once there's a red ring around it, it means you can be fined for going over the speed limit. This is an advisory sign. Okay, guys, Ololade, have you got anything else you wanted to ask or talk about?
No,
Ololade?
not at the moment. No, thank you.
Okay, well done, brilliant. You got the right answer there. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you so much. So contact our people and they will send out a gift voucher to you for the £10.
Oh,
That's
thank
what
you
I was.
so much. Thank you.
Get to know the difference between what's regulatory, what is advisory, what is according to the regulations, what is advisory, and then what are the terms of your driving that you need to consider when you're looking at your speed. How wet the road is, what the traction is like, what your tires are like, what the circumstances are, what your vision area is, all those sort of things. Is it raining? Is it cold? Is it wet? Is it this? Is it there's so many factors that affect the ability of the car to stop or to control itself. And then also your own physical conditions. Sometimes when you're tired and things like that, you need to think about, should I get off the road and have a bit of a rest? Or there's too much mist, I can't see, get off the road. Just don't take a chance with the car. Cars are really dangerous. They're dangerous to you and they're dangerous to other people as well. And we want to keep safe. Guys, one last round now. Is there anybody out there who wants to share a bit of wisdom or has any questions we haven't answered this evening? Okay, guys, what we will do is we will prepare a complete tutorial on this, and we'll run it through into the BDSL online, where you can go and have a look at it. So our BDSL online, remember guys, BDSL online has got the training videos where you can train for your driving test. There's some excellent material there. I don't know, I think the speed there's also a speed awareness thing there as well, and various other things that you can work with on BDSL online. And if you're a client of ours, you get all of that for free. I want to say thank you to everybody who participated tonight. It was a really, really brilliant setup. I really enjoyed it as well. Lots of questions. And thank you for everyone who participated this evening. Iante, do you want to just tell the people about our fantastic and amazing Facebook or something like that?
Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone. Yeah, perhaps, Chris, you can also just maybe play the short video for us at the end when we close down. So, guys, please make sure that you guys go and like the Facebook page and all of that. Lariska is putting a lot of effort in there, all available tests and everything that we've got. Any services, any specials, all will be posted on there. Please make sure to like, share, and go crazy. You guys don't want to miss a special. Maybe even get a gift voucher for your child or a friend, or just a surprise gift voucher.
Yep. Thank you. I'm just going to try out this video.